December 1993, right? December 1993. I was born, yes, I was teaching in St. Pius's Marfell. It was Christmas, so we were sort of winding down. My form class was there, 14-year-olds, etc., and we're having a quiz, right? So we're having a quiz. And one of the questions I sort of came up with in the quiz was, okay, Derry have just won the first All-Ireland, our first All-Ireland. It seems to be, it's our only one at the minute. So, Derry has just won the first All-Ireland. Who was the manager for Derry's All-Ireland team? Now, I have Tyrone kids, I have Derry kids, I have Antrim kids. Every hand in the place shoots up. Every hand in the place. Perfect. Who is it? Eamon Coleman. Straight away, no bother, all the nods go Eamon Coleman. Then I thought, bonus point. Name Derry's coach. Nothing, right, at that stage, and I'm waiting for it, and then this hand goes up. And the hand goes up, and I go, well, and he goes, Chambers. Now that'll mean nothing to you until you see Chambers. I kid you not, we still use Chambers, right? Rodney still drives, right? But you know the worst thing? Wasn't it Mickey Moore had been forgotten completely? It was the fact that all the other heads in the room went, oh, should have got that, Chambers. Would have been class. So anyway, Chambers still. So all I'm saying is, if you ever get above your station and think coaches are really important, we're not. To the people out there, we're not. We just enjoy ourselves, right? So anyway, here we go. We're going to start on that quiz theme and do a bit of a focus quiz, okay? So here's the way this is going to work. You're going to get 5 photo slides and 5 statements. When a photo slide comes up, it might have a couple of photos on it, but a photo slide comes up, you're going to have 30 seconds to discuss that photograph with somebody near you. Don't worry if you don't know them. Don't spend the 30 seconds saying, where are you from? Did you stay in the hotel? Did you get breakfast? Was in the breakfast class? Etc. Just talk about what you see on there. Don't be panicking. Nobody's going to get pointed out. When you do that, at the end of the 30 seconds, I'm going to put a statement up there. I want an immediate response. I don't want you then to go back and chat again. I want an immediate response. You'll have had your 30 seconds of coaching time. The immediate response has got to be one of 2 things. Raise your hand if you think it's true. No action if you think it's false. Sit there, whatever way you want, fold your arms, just look at me and think, are you kidding, right? Do that. The problem if you're in the first couple of rows is you have no idea what's going on behind you, right? So if I'm looking at you, you'll think, I have kept my hand down and there's 60 hands up behind me. I'm going to look a complete idiot here. Doesn't matter. We're just getting in the frame of mind. You good to go? Yep. Right, here we go. Good, I can hear it, Jeff. Okay, stop. That's a bit. Owen will think things are going really well in here, right? Or I've left, one of the 2. So, statement, remember, hand up if you agree, sit there if you disagree. Nobody else has put their hands up while he's behind you. Okay, down. No answer. The great thing about this quiz is no answer. There's no answer coming. You can see me later, right? Second one. Where you go? Ready to go? Immediate response. Okay, we're on 3. I should have said where these things were happening, but this is Garvahe in Tyrone. I actually go into Tyrone the odd time, right? So this is Daniel. Have a look at Daniel. That's just a line I drew. That's not a post, but it looks like it. Have a look at Daniel. All right? Okay. Statement. Sorry, I'm not being fine. You know, feint and a sidestep? Yeah. So, feint, sidestep. So. All right, so that's your response? Oh. You know the thing where I said immediate response? You know, didn't take that long to read that, right? Somebody saying shouldn't be a comma in that. Right, okay. Okay, these are 2 separate photographs. They're not the same tackle. Packy is not making the same tackle. This is Garvahe as well. So have a look. Okay, right. Now this one is immediate response. Okay, and the 5th and final one. Have a look at James. This is Marfelt, under 14s. Okay, here we go. Lovely. Okay, end of quiz. You know that's usual, you're all winners thing. You're not. No, you are. Right, so what I want to know is this. If you didn't claim it anyway, just claim it anyway, right? Who chose true for all 5? All 5 are true. Now, we're not going back to debate them. As I say, you can pick me up later on and argue with me on certain things. But it was just to get you focused on the idea of player development, individual, looking at individuals. And I know, let me put it this way. I'm a big believer in it all being fun and giving them scope, et cetera, et cetera. But sometimes, one of the best ways to help somebody is to step in and give them a wee bit of advice, and their game just blossoms. I don't care what age you are. That idea of just feeling 10 feet tall as a player is magnificent, and it might come from you giving one pointer that becomes the catalyst or the domino effect for something else. It is just fantastic. And you take the likes of James there, where he was throwing the ball in the air and then swinging at it like a 6-year-old would do, and he just hadn't played a lot of football and he wasn't really coordinated. And getting him to actually lower the ball and drop it from here, manna from heaven. The cub just blossomed. So, where were we? Right. So, last year, if you were here, Friday the 12th of January 2018, up the stairs, 10 minutes, and my job was to outline the basics of player development coaching. Right? So, basics of player development coaching, my question is, if you weren't there, where were you? Where were you? Now, I looked this up to see What else could possibly be on that would drag you away? You know what it was? The Late Late Show, right? It's on every Friday, but it was a very special edition, and it may have traumatized you, because on that Late Late Show was a guy who was advocating that you put the toy show in the bin. You know, Room 101, that type of thing. So if you had a really terrible night, you'll now think, I should have gone to hear this guy and a few others on that, because he was advocating putting the toy show into the bin at that stage. We were here, we did 10 minutes, so we're going to do a recap, quick recap, right? If you were here, just give me a show of hands if you were here. Start telling lies, you know. Right, okay, so my apologies, but we are going to do a recap on what happened that night. So the focus was this: 3 fellas from Marfelt, from my own club. So up in the top left, you have Owen, top right, you have Kerr, and down at the bottom, you have Dan. And we were looking at a situation where we would give them a priority challenge, as I called it. Some change that would make a big difference to his game. Now, you might think he's got 5 or 6 things to change. Of course, we debated that. But a priority challenge where it might demand a wee bit more, or it would be that catalyst that brought his game on, and maybe had to do a wee bit of individual work. So between us at Marfelt, we had worked out that Owens was turning. And I had mentioned the fact that you could turn a ship quicker than Owen, very skillful footballer, but he didn't like contact and he wanted to go way, way around while everybody else waited. We wanted to tighten that turn, literally tighten that turn. The other one, second one, was shooting for Kerr. Not accuracy, All-Ireland champion Irish dancer, age 12, etc. Great balance, coordination, but distance. He was not kicking a size 4 ball over the bar from 20 metres or thereabouts, or a distance that a lot of the other players who didn't have his balance and coordination were doing. Right, so we wanted to see what the crack was with him. And the third one was Dan, solo running. Believe it or not, that photograph was taken of Dan when he was under 14. Right? Right. He's 7'9" now. He's 15. Right? No, but he is a big lad. You'll hear of him at some stage. Dan Higgins. So Dan was solo running, not his technique. It was the fact that he was easily shepherded away to one side of the pitch, and the Blackheath player in the background there would have found it easy to just move Dan out to the side. So 3 things that we looked at. The problem we discovered was we were trying to do all this that way. And that was hoping for improvement through collective coaching. So your normal drills, your normal games, etc., they will come on and they will get better at these 3 things. And sometimes that happens, and lots of times, and you could point to me and say, oh, we had a fella, or we had a girl, and it worked for them without even taking them out on their own. Absolutely. The problem with these 3 was it wasn't working for them. So we wanted to look and see what could possibly be done. We drew parallels with professional sport. And the idea was, look at professionals and see what they do. Now, immediately you go, wait, Marfelt under 14s, professional sport, catch a grip, fella. But there are things to learn from them. There are things to learn from them. So you have Steph Curry up on the left from the Golden State Warriors. He's very comfortable going to his left, as he's shown there against the Celtics. But one of the things he did as an adult and as an NBA player was learn to go to his right. Simply explode to his right to shoot, to add something to his game. You have Tom Brady, New England Patriots, and you think, not much wrong there, but when his game went awry, you had a guy called Tom House who looked at him, and when he was looking at him, they discovered that this left arm of his, when he was starting to throw the ball a wee bit crooked, was taking on a life of its own. So this left arm was floating about the place, he had started to wave it, and that threw him off slightly. So they got him to fold his arm over his chest, throw the ball. Left arm fold, right arm fire. And all I was doing was looking for parallels to see individual work being done. Otamendi, when Guardiola took over, he decided one of the things that Otamendi was doing was spending too much time on his backside. He was going down into slide tackles when they were needed and when they were not needed. He must have just loved that sliding effect and taking out players like, obviously, Manchester United players, want to take them out, but just too much down. And he said he was out of the game, so he was of no use to them. So he assigned Arteta in small-sided games to get this guy on his feet, and discovered that he actually can play the ball out of defence quite well. The difference was they were driving improvement with individual coaching. Remember, we were hoping for improvement through collective, right? So we wanted to move that across. My point was last year that individual coaching will increase your worth. And that's your worth to yourself and to the team. So Newton's Cradle, best example I can find. So let's assume that the 4 silver balls are all part of the player's makeup. and the red one is part of the player's makeup as well. That's the coach taking that element out and doing a bit of work with it and letting it back in, and things move in sync. So other things start in the game to be in a greater, better rhythm. Equally, you could say, well, that's not part of the player there. Those other 4 silver balls there, they represent the team. So you take the player out, do work on that player, put he or she back in again, and then you've got a more rhythmical team moving, right? So that was the best way I could illustrate the fact that if you work with an individual, you may have knock-on effects for them, obviously, but also for a team of any age. So this is Owen, still on the recap here. This is Owen working on his turns. No rocket science there, where he was just doing tight turns. We wanted to take him out 10 minutes at a time out of the collective session for 10, 15 sessions in the year until it bedded in, And then it became part of his game, and he was fit to be used in a different number of positions, and he brought other players into the game quicker, right? This is Kerr. Now, you might think at an under 12, what are you doing, putting this cub on film, etc.? We did all the parental permissions things, but we found out when we put him on slow motion camera on huddle that as he struck the ball, he sat. So Kerr was never going to get any distance. You go home today and don't do your back end or whatever, just go out into a garden, sit down and try and kick the ball. Do you see? You get no distance. So he was sitting. All we needed to do with Kerr was stand him up. And he stood up. And he can now strike the ball better. That's all. He didn't know he was sitting. We didn't know at full speed what he was doing. It was just a blur, right? We're all very fast in Marfeld, you see, right? And this is Dan. So Dan's working on a feint and a sidestep. Oh, Dan's working on a feint and a sidestep from yellow to white to bring him back into the play. Feint, sidestep, and get in. So simple stuff, but while the session was going on, I was taking those players out, or somebody else was taking those players out, to just work on those things again and again and again, hoping that when they went back into the session, maybe once or twice in that session in a game, they got the opportunity to do it. Maybe it went the whole session and nothing happened. But bit by bit, they got better at these things. So we stuck with it. Anyway, that was our attempt at changing to do that. And that is drive this improvement through individual coaching. I'm just keeping an eye on time here. See, Tracy's keeping me right on. 15 minutes gone or so. Yeah. Right, so what happened? That was the theme last year of the conference. So think it, do it, whatever, become it. And all I did was think about a priority challenge for your player. What will make the big difference? When you come up with that, make some time and space, be prepared for the long haul, and think. People in the audience were to think of becoming a player development coach. In other words, not the coach who's involved with the drills and groups, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe you're better taking a step away. And if you're lucky enough to have 3 or 4 on a management team, you really, if you're using those 3 or 4 for drills and the likes of that, don't know. But what generally happens is 1 or 2 are used for drills and 1 or 2 are used for leaning over the fence and having a chat with somebody who's come down. So if you're blessed with that, sort it. Go look for the individual side of things. And it's not desperately difficult. So where do we go next? So this is the new bit. So I went home. And I spent a year of doing that type of thing there. Experimenting, testing things out, failing, modifying, learning. Sometimes we got it right. With a variety of different things. So the club, incoming under 12s, they were good to go with. Some of their coaches wanted to do player development, so they had 2 people assigned to doing that. They had a big squad. They had 5 working with them, and they started to work on individual stuff with players. And just, I don't mean check back with me. It gives me this feeling of, oh, they can't do anything without me. It was nonsense. They just checked the odd time to find out, what do you think? We'll do this, we'll do that. They had probably better ideas than I had anyway. Back with the under-14s again, who had a great manager in Enda Quinn and a great coach in Murdo O'Brien, who were quite happy to go again with take guys out, etc. I ran a number of PDC workshops across different places across the country. We have a WhatsApp group going. Quite a few people in here I recognise that are in that. Just we share some ideas and the likes of that, and it goes fairly well. Started up a Twitter account. Yeah. And there it is there, GAALearning player development. But all I'm doing is taking things from it, from people that I've worked with or I've heard, or I'm retweeting things, and it's just going to a few thousand people or a couple of thousand people at the minute, and I'm quite happy, and I'm picking up information as well. So we don't know where it's going to end up, not worried. It's just there, and we're throwing things out. Sometimes people come back, but most times they don't. And then the other thing was, I took the opportunity to introduce PDC to Derry senior footballers. Now, at this stage, if you think somebody beside you that's a friend and you're about to go, hold on a minute. Derry went to Division 4. This guy started working with them. Anybody get the link? You know, and then your friend says, I told you we should have gone to see Colm Nally, right? Well, we'll go back to the Derry thing in a wee while, but there's a good point to it. Right. So, Marafelt. What happened at Marafelt? And again, don't get carried away with me putting up slides with Huddle. This is a wee app that I use that I just love from the point of view slow motion stuff. This is our chum in the first slide, and you look at him, and he's just lovely action, absolutely lovely action. To show that to other players, and to say, look at the knee lift, and his arms up, and his eyes, etc. The lad has only started playing Gaelic football about 7 months, right? It's fabulous to show people that type of thing, right? In the middle slide, you have Podrick, and Podrick's one was used to the fact that he wasn't making any distance. And if you look at that, and I know maybe you had far down there, but if you look at that one with Podrick, you'll see that he's actually twisted away from the goals. The upper body's twisted away from the goals, and he can't release his hips through to kick the ball. So all we had to do with Podrick was actually finish on the goals. You know, and we tried a number of things. The great Dave Allred that I happened to run into, thank God, in 1995 in Limerick, was the guy that taught me in the first place, if you're coaching anybody and you want to try different things, think about a bunch of keys that you're saying to a player, look, we have a bunch of keys here. There's a door there. None of us know how that door is going to open, but it's on there somewhere. If we get the first key, brilliant, really lucky. If it's the seventh key, we still got it. We get in. So I adopt that same approach. Look, Podrick, I have no idea if that's going to work, son. Let's try a number of different things. Maybe it's the third thing that clicks with Podrick. No point going any more. No point, oh, I've got 5 more things in my armory here. I'll try those with you too. Once he clicks and has something to feel, oh, I've something to hold on to here, then you go for it. So it was a trial and error thing. So don't be thinking, oh, this guy's full of this expertise, etc. I'm footering like everybody else. I'm telling you now, there have been players that's taken ages to sort, and there will be players the same way. So the one on the right, now apologies for away at the back, but the one on the right I'm going to show you. It's a wee bit dark, but you'll see the fella coming there in the background, and that's the captain of the team, Connell. And Connell's problem was he could have fist passed the ball anywhere. When it left his hand, it could go anywhere, right? Guessing game. Real powerful athlete, real good fella, very good team player, but fist passing for some reason or other was just his nemesis. And it could have gone anywhere, on the ground, in the air, way over that way, one way or another. But there was something not quite right about it. So we filmed him. So I want you to look at it. I'm not going to put the onus on you to say, watch and see what happens, but watch the first time through if you can. Sorry about the size of this, but he'd slow down. He'd slow down. This is the slow motion one. So watch him coming in. It's always sunny weather in Marafelt, by the way. You should come and live there. Now that's Connell's fist pass. You see that, right? So let me run that wee bit here, and I'm going to tell you what to look for. He did not move his arm back at all. He started every fist pass from there, just there. So he started there, and he hit the ball with his fist, or the heel of his hand. But to give that added boost or impetus to it, he jumped after the ball. Watch him strike and jump. The jump was no effect whatsoever in the ball's way, but he's gone at that stage, and the ball could have gone anywhere. Nothing. So have we look at him again, just so you see on impact what he does. You can see from there. There. That was his habit. That was his habit. All we had to do was look at that and go, do you see what I see? Yep. He's just starting from here. So we got him to do pendulum swing. That was it. Now he still has his wee jump, but his fist passing is much more accurate, And the lad is very confident now because he couldn't get to the bottom of it either. Took us ages, but we got there. And it was really challenging and exciting. Brilliant, brilliant to do it. So that's the type of thing went on with Marfeld under-14s. And they had a really good season too. Then it struck me, a different thing struck me altogether. I started to worry about, right, PDC, player development coaching. Is this thing being restricted by just working on technique and technique and technique? I was thinking, is there another way to add this into something to do with other aspects of the game? And then Finbar came along by a fluke. He's in that under-14 side. But I was watching a game. And the coach, it was a training game. And Murdo, the coach, was working with them. And they were bunching in and around the 45 on the attack. And he was saying to them, look, lads, we're bunching here. We need to spread out. We need more room, etc. You're bringing other players in. All the things that were interrupting your attack. So all I did was look at Finbar, just to see what his role in the whole thing was. And if you look at this, there's the pitch. Finbar was coming from a sort of a left half-back position. And the red line was what Finbar was doing. So he was going up round about the 45 and thinking, I'll have a bit of this. And in he was coming with his marker or whatever, and they were going in, and 3 or 4 others were coming in the same way. And all I asked Finbar to do was hold your line. Run a bit further before you make that cut and have a look to see, is it still worth doing? So he would then go as far as the 20-metre line, make the cut, and think, things are going well. And he got on the end of a shot for a goal, didn't score it, and he got a couple of points. But you could see the fella thinking, there's a difference. There's a difference in this. Just something really, really simple. Now, I'm not saying, oh, this just opened up unbelievable possibilities. But in a way, it did. Because I started to look at things on the pitch rather than just the technical side of things. And the point I was trying to make was summed up by this, that I was convinced that collective reminders, in other words, lads, girls, we're doing this, we need to be doing such and such, we need to whatever, were being lost on players. Because when they heard we, they never associated with me. It's me he's talking about or she's talking about. They just went, we, generally we. So some of you boys are doing this, right? Definitely not me. But individual instruction was much better. In other words, what was Finbar's role in that bunching? And how could I get him out of it and maybe someone else, rather than him responding to the big collective thing? It wasn't happening. And then I used a thing called the bib, as I call it, the instruction bib. So don't be going out there and going to O'Neill's and saying, I want one of those bibs that says, this bib says. Because they don't exist, and don't start making them either, this bib says, right? So all I basically did was, I went to a couple of places, and I did it at Marfeld, and I was in Donegal doing it. I'll give you an example. And in Gervahi as well, we did it with the Tyrone Under-16 development squad, and used a different coloured bib to identify something in your game. So basically I was saying, I want to shape your pitch behaviour a wee bit differently and add something to your game. So we're going to force you into doing this. This bib says, move the ball first time. So we literally put a bib on. Now you might think, oh, hold on, Philip, that's a bit like, you know, the old teaching thing of put him in the corner, dunce's cap nonsense, right? But it's not that. It was, put this on and this will dominate your play. Let this dominate your play for the next 10 minutes. And it worked. It actually worked. So I had an under-16 player at Tyrone who the Tyrone mentors were saying, we can't get him to cover once the play is dead. We can't get him to cover back and find his man again. The bib did it. Now, I have to say that when the bib came off again, he went back to normal, right? So he's wearing the bib to bed now all the time. But it is that type of thing where at least you thought, right, we've got to focus here. We've got to focus. And the bib really, really worked. And there's an example. Read that. So, up in Donegal, under 12s, you can read it there. Put a wee lad in full forward, game changed. Game changed. He loved it. Somebody else wanted the bib. Somebody else wanted the bib. And then the manager said, we'd like to try the bib on so-and-so. But it nearly became nearly a mark of importance. I'm getting this, rather than a mark of shame. It was done in that particular way. And it worked a treat. Try it till you see. If you think it doesn't work, throw it away. But if it does work, stick with it. Use it for certain things, short periods of time. So, this next bit is, I call it different gravy. So what have I done so far? Bit of work at Marfelt, bit of work with PDC workshops around clubs, trying to get coaches and clubs to develop people into that role. And then along came Derry senior footballers. And that's when I got the shock. And I don't mean from the point of view of nobody wanted to play ball, that the management didn't want this. They were just open to everything. I couldn't have asked for more. The problem was that. That was the problem. And if I put round the outside of that, all the things that impinge on a county footballer, you may say, look, they impinge on a club footballer as well. In a short year, it is unbelievable. The windows really don't exist. So my traditional way of saying, well, what we'll do is I'll take you in, we'll take 10-minute slots out with these players, etc., just really didn't work. Now, you'll hear a player in a minute saying that they did that, but he's being generous. It happened a couple of times. My impact on the Derry situation last year was minimal from that point of view. It wasn't that I was out of my depth, and I don't mean that in a trite way. It was there was no time for it. The culture wasn't there, and the culture wouldn't be there with many county teams. So we did have work, for example, on Emmett jumping for the ball and timing his jump, etc. We did have work with JD doing looking at shooting and what his body action was like when he was shooting. And we did some of that, but it was an ad hoc thing. Let's be honest, it was an ad hoc thing. And not because of management, because I had overestimated how you would just walk in here and this would work, right? That's the way it was. So, we'll go for this. Kieran has set it up to say. Just listen to Emmett for a minute.
I'm aware that personal development or player development coaching is in its infancy at county level. It's something that I've never really been exposed to with club or county. You're kind of just expected to do it by yourself, and it's never really highlighted. But one thing that's been introduced for Derry the past couple of years is as a player development coach, and I've hooked up with him a couple of times just to work on different elements of a game that I feel that can be improved on, that'll make a big difference to how good I am or effective I am as a player. And a couple of things that I've been working on is just evasion to my weaker side, because we'll be a lot more comfortable going to my right. And I've been working a lot on being more comfortable going to my left. Another thing that I've been working on is timing for high catching, using my right foot more often, a weaker foot. And the way it's been introduced into training sessions is just there's a wee bit of time allocated, and we've been given a slot with the coach, and we step aside from the collective session and we go do a wee bit on our own. And I think it's helped my game massively, not only in the actual practical element of it, but it's actually made me sort of become more conscious of the things that I need to work on. And it's just got me thinking, and I think that's the biggest part of personal development coaching or player development coaching.
Right, so I told you he was being generous saying we come out for the 10 minutes and like that, and it would have sounded, I could have made that sound as if, oh, this is a really structured process, but it didn't come that way. What have we got, 10 minutes? 5? 5, right. Will you see the speed of this? Right, so pressure of time wasn't the only thing. And look, I'm going to cut Noel here in the middle. I want to just push across from the start of what Noel says. I'm not going to do the second one of his because you'll understand as it goes along. But Noel Brick, who's working with sports psychology in Derry.
So we can probably explain this by looking at the motivational orientations of athletes. So generally there's two broad motivational orientations. One is called a task orientation. And these would be athletes that we might describe as really focused on self-improvement. They're motivated to stay focused and to stay committed to self-improvement. And they persist through failure. So in other words, they try, they make mistakes, they fail, but they try again. The second type of athlete we might think about is called an ego-oriented athlete. And this is an athlete who is very much focused on winning, so focused on those outcomes, but maybe not so much focused on putting in the work or putting in the effort it takes.
So, task and ego, cutting that a bit short. And I started thinking, county footballer, task and ego, what? Surely everybody wants to improve. They have to want to improve. And I couldn't get my head around it until I thought of my own situation. And very briefly, I'm going to tell you this, take you away entirely. 35, 36, 37 years ago, I was a drummer in a jazz band, which was born out of the whole show band scene. My father and all started at 5 saxes, 3 trumpets, 2 trombones, rhythm section, 2 singers. Big stuff. You're not playing too many pubs, right? But I could not read music, and everybody else could. And my father was always saying, Philip, simple math, son, right? You know, you'll learn to read this. But I couldn't, and I didn't. And we had 120 numbers in the library, but I knew that if somebody said to me number 43, I could still tell you it's Glenn Miller's American Patrol, and I could drum that, right, as well as I thought I could drum it. The problem was, along came a drummer called Fintan McGrath. He covered for me one night and said, where's the music? And I said, I don't have any. But my father had kept it in the bottom of his tenor sax case, hoping that his son would someday learn to read music. So he took it out, used it, and then I saw a drummer. He was a drummer. And he was following stuff that somebody else had written for Neil Hefti, had written for Count Basie or any of those things. Simple, more effective stuff than I was doing. My response, you would think, would be, learn to read music, Philip. My response was, 7 months later, I sold my kit. Right? Never drummed since, right? Thought, too much, boys. I love that, but too much. So anyway, ego-orientated, one way or another. So, can you move it? And we have to skip past this. You can. And then the Finbar effect kicked in, because I started to think, stop looking at Derry players from the point of view of mastering technique. Look at what's happening on the actual pitch. So we started to look at individual things on the pitch. What was their pitch stuff? What are you contributing to this play, particularly the possession? And that's where I've moved this season. Now, I know we're racing through it, but you'll get the gist. I went round loads of county players, top county players. I'm not naming them, but the Derry players know who they are. I went round loads of them to ask them, what have you improved as an adult? And these are examples of county players who improved different things. I was more interested in the ones who were doing pitch things, like the Dublin player learned the value of making later support runs, or the Tyrone player whose game was improved with out-to-in running, right, in support, or the real, oh my God, it was just unbelievable to hear at the end, the county squad that has adopted peer coaching to help improve one another's game. I got it from a county player's mouth, and I know I believe it because they're a top county, that they were starting to coach each other in things, way beyond what we were at. So, I then started, and we're 2 minutes, all right? Then started shifting the emphasis. And I started to do clips of their games, text them, trial different things, see if they would respond to it, and it started to pick up. So we looked at their habits, took clips, studied the clips, recorded some voiceovers, sent these clips back to individual players, and they started to take interest. They started to take interest. And we targeted a group of players, or I targeted a group of players. So, for example, if I show you this, forget about the one on the right, I didn't put it in the animation, I'll show you in a wee minute. I would send something to a player, you're already picking up the idea of not running into contact unnecessarily, you've started to offload. His response was, I'm finding myself doing this, how do I respond to that? So it was now becoming a conversation between us. You had a player who I challenged to look at his tackling, watch the quarter speed clip, tell me what you think is good or bad, give me your own views. He would come back to me to say, could tackle a bit more with a near hand, etc., etc. So we're starting to get inroads into what are you doing as a Derry player on that pitch? And that's where we are at the minute. Looking at a guy who's a boxer, great foot speed, etc., and I'm asking him, is this coming from boxing? And he's saying, yeah, and his timing of tackling. Another one, sorry, that last one, and that actually happened today. Today, they're at a training session. I sent this morning. You'd be thinking, what Egypt sends this at 7:49, right? Wednesday's game in the McKenna Cup. This is what he was doing. He's working on this because he tended to kick the ball away against Tyrone. He just kicked 4 out of 6 passes away. And then we looked at it, and his response is, the work we're doing, I like my new game. Now, he'll get it tested tomorrow because they're playing Tyrone again, right? We have this thing with, we just like playing Tyrone for 20,000 years, right? Nobody else exists, and they like beating us. It'll finish sometime, don't worry. Okay? Now, what have I learnt in a year just to finish it? The Ross is still allowing me to experiment with PDC. It's great. Instruction of individuals is far superior to collective reminders. The we thing, we're doing this, target individual people. Third thing, slow motion clips from huddle are priceless. Priceless. Not hard to do, absolutely priceless. Fantastic. Fast motion is okay, but it's not great. Slow motion really gives them the opportunity to see. The PDC bib, I use it, it's a catalyst, and it's nearly this mark of distinction. You try it. If you think it's not, abandon it. If you think it is, keep it. County players, given the right environment, they will change their habits, even at 25, 26, 27 years of age, given the right environment. Don't expect it to happen immediately, but give them that boost of feeling, I have a different game in me. And the last thing I learned was that convincing a squad to adopt peer coaching is my next goal. Thank you very much.